Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Class B, or second class after Hurricane Ida. As we revamp the semester, we're going forward with a new mini project for your midterm exam / midterm project. Today in Revit, we'll review ceilings, how to create ceilings. We'll do roofs, how to create roof types. We'll also discuss fascia and gutters. We'll also learn how to create a site. Sites are very, there's a multi-step process in creating our sites, and probably the most confusing part of the lecture today, but so we'll take our time when we get to that part just to kind of review that and make sure everybody kind of feels comfortable with it. But to start, we'll go ahead and jump into ceilings. Ceilings is going to be one of your easier things that we do on here, and y'all all appreciate it after all the stuff that we've been going through. So let's go ahead and open that up and we can jump into ceilings. So if we take a look at the lower left hand part of our screen where we have our project browser, you'll notice that there is a ceiling section. So we want to do our ceilings plan obviously in ceiling level 1. So we'll click on that, make it active. And the view is obviously very similar to the view that we have in site plan or in level 1. So we see our level 1 here, and then our ceiling view here. So it gets people a little bit confused. Like they'll go to draw something in level 1, but they're actually in their ceiling plan view. So just pay attention to when you're using your project browser that you're in the right section, the right level. So let's go ahead and jump into ceilings. So for that, we want to go to.
I'm sorry to bother you. My properties pane, that properties window in my project browser disappeared.
Okay, and that does tend to happen a lot. They do, they get turned off by accident, or it's very easy to click the X and just kind of close it. So this happens a lot. Don't worry about that. The best way to get that back is to go to your View tab. And then go all the way to the right where it says User Interface.
Yep.
Click on that, and then make sure Project Browser.
Yeah, okay.
Project Browser and Properties are checked.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're kind of in different tabs for some reason. They're not one under the other. They're on different tabs, which I'm sure is fine, but I don't know how to fix that.
Yeah, you can just move them around to get back to the position that you want to. A lot of times it's really awkward to get it back to exactly how you want it to look here because I have to join up. But if you just kind of move them around like that, you'll see how they'll kind of pop back together. And then a lot of times they'll come back and they'll be layered. So you got to jump back and forth with it like this.
Right. Okay.
But you can move it back together, and then you can you just have to kind of play with it to put it where you want it to be after that.
Okay. All right.
But it does get a little frustrating when it gets moved. Yeah, I've got to, it'll take a while to get me to reposition it where I want it to be. So yeah, it's one of the downfalls of when you close it and then it gets in the wrong position. So
yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. All right, let me move this thing out of the way. All right, ceilings. Let's jump back to ceilings. So to do ceilings, we want to go to Architecture tab, Build Panel, Ceiling Tool. So we'll click on Ceilings. And in my project browser, I am in ceiling level 1. In my properties here, I'm set to level 1, and the height offset of the ceiling when I bring it in is going to be at 8 feet. I can change this. If you wanted taller ceilings, you could change this to higher ceilings. If we can definitely change the height of this when you go through it. Another thing I want you to pay attention to is this green panel right here. Notice you have 2 options. It automatically defaults to automatic ceiling, and you can also draw the shape of your ceiling. But if we're just doing something really basic on here and we want to do automatic ceilings, we can have that default to automatic ceiling. And I actually do want to be in level 1 floor plan when I draw that. When I actually go back to manipulate the ceiling, I need to do that. I can't use my ceiling plan level right now because I don't have a ceiling in place. So in your floor plan level 1, go to your ceilings. And when you go bring in the automatic sketch, notice how we have this red border that goes. Question? So when you get this red border, notice on here, it's going to give you a warning that say none of the elements that created are visible in the floor plan, but that's okay. That's exactly what we want. So we'll go ahead and close that. And let's see what happens when we jump to 3D. And we'll tip our building, and we can see that our ceilings are in place here. Sorry about that, y'all. I'm still having issues with the screen. So we have our ceilings in place at this point. Let me go ahead and highlight this ceiling, and I'm just going to delete it so I can redraw it for you. In this ceiling right here, I'm going to jump to my properties, and I'm going to change this to a 10-foot ceiling, and we can see what happens there. And if we spin this around, notice when I highlight that wall and make it active, I have a ceiling at 8 foot, at 10 foot, and at 8 foot. So you can't change the heights of those ceilings. Let's go back to my ceiling level 1. Notice with those in place, when the default ceiling comes in, it looks like this. This is because the architectural acoustic ceiling tile is selected. You can change that to a sheetrock level. We can change that to gypboard. And let's do that here. We'll go through some extra steps on this level right here. So to draw our ceilings in place, we want to go to Architecture tab, Build Panel, and then our Ceiling tool. We're going to go to Sketch Ceiling, and this is where we can draw the shape of our ceiling. Now we want to have it defaulted to boundary lines and then also to lines itself so we can draw those. So let's just draw the shape of our ceiling. So if we wanted to do something like this, we can do that. Hit our green check mark. We've got something that looks like that. Now, if I wanted to draw like another piece over here, I could, let's go ahead and do that again. So I'm going to sketch this ceiling again. I'm going to actually reset this ceiling to 9 foot. I'm going to use this circular one right here. And let's jump to 3D, see what that looks like. So here from our front view, you can see I've got this ceiling in place at 8 foot. I did this one at 9 foot. This is kind of a cool way that you can do those multi-level ceilings that you see in a lot of office buildings where you have the higher ceiling or you just have like the open ceiling and they've got these clouds kind of floating as part of the acoustic properties for the ceiling, for the room, and kind of keep that sound level down. It's just kind of a neat way to kind of play with that to get those multi-level ceilings in place. But ceilings are pretty easy. And once again, anything that we're doing in Revit is going to be fun while we get a chance to play with it and stuff. So what I'd recommend for you to do is just kind of, play with the ceilings that we have in those buildings. If we look at our information from the midterm project, Otherwise, I'm going to refer back to this for this project. Ceilings, I don't have anything set for a specific height, so you can set ceiling height to whatever you want it to be. So we can do that. The ceilings make sense for y'all so far?
So far, so good.
Cool. All right. Next thing we're going to do is how to draw a roof. And notice in here for the information, you're going to draw a 9-inch roof, which means the thickness of the roof will actually be 9 inches. We're going to create gables on either side of the roof. And then it's going to have a 7/12 slope with a 3-foot overhang and add fascia and gutters. So a lot of parameters go into specifics on how we're going to create this roof. So a lot of stuff that we need to look at. So let's just go take this one pace at a time, and then we'll go back and we'll adjust it to what we need it to be right here. Let me put my walls back. And to create my roof, I want to actually jump to floor plan level 1. I'm going to turn this view off because I find it distracting. Okay, so to create our roof, we're going to go to Architecture tab, Build Panel, Roof Tool. If we do the drop down here, you'll notice there's a few different ways that you can create a roof. We're going to use the default roof to start with, which is roof by footprint. When we get to more advanced stuff, we can do go through some of this other things. Except today we will do fascia and gutter. Soffit will cover in the second half of class, second half of the semester. I just kind of want to get a bunch of stuff under your belts right now. So today we're going to do roof by footprint, fascia and gutters. It defaults to roof by footprint. Now, a lot of times when people are drawing this is always going to pop up. It says lowest level notice. You have created the roof on the lowest level. Would you like to move it? You should put yes, but most people click no or just kind of like, oh, I don't know what that is, and just kind of ignore it. So we'll come back to that and we'll see what happens. Next thing we want to do is we want to notice on here that we have our boundary line default and on also pick walls. We want to leave those as is. Just leave those at the default. And when we come down here and we pick walls, we can just select the different walls. And notice where that location line is. It is right on that exterior wall. So there's no overhang right now. And also, if we notice on here, there's a slope symbol showing you that this side of the roof will be sloped. And it is at a 9/12 slope. And we'll discuss that in a minute as well. But let's just see what happens when we hit our green check mark. When we hit our green check mark, it's always going to give you this where it says, would you like to attach the highlighted walls to the roof? And I always don't want you to attach it. And we'll go into that a little bit further. So we've got something that looks like this, which looks really weird. And then when we get to 3D, it's going to look even weirder. So we've got something that looks like that. So what the heck happened there? Well, when I went to draw the roof, I deleted that thing where it said, did I wanted to move it to the second level? I should have said yes, but I didn't do that. Just gonna went ahead and randomly drew this in, but that's okay. We can fix it without redrawing it. So I'm gonna highlight it, make it active, jump back over to my properties, and have my base level changed from level 1 to level 2. And that's gonna raise the roof. At this time, you're gonna notice that the walls are still kind of hanging out up here. So there's a few different ways that we can fix our walls. So just for our exterior walls, what I want to do is I want to select all the exterior walls. So I'm going to click on one, make it active, hold down my control key, click my other exterior walls. And if we come back up to the ribbon again, you'll notice that there's a tool called Attach Top to Base, which basically means that I'm going to take the top of these walls and attach the top of the walls to the bottom of the roof. So with the walls active, I'm going to click on the roof. And we'll make a liar out of me. So yeah, let me do one. So, okay. One wall, control. Click the others, attach top to base, click the roof. Yeah, sorry about that. Don't know why that didn't work the first time. So we've got something that kind of looks like that. And then we've got these other walls kind of hanging out near the top through the roof. We do not want to attach these to the roof, and let me show you why. Let me just do that. Attach, highlight that wall, make it active, attach top to base, and I'll attach it to the roof. Well, that looks like it would have done the trick, but if we take a look inside the house, we'll notice that that roof is now, that wall is now all the way up to the roof. And if you were doing like a cathedral ceiling or something like that, that would be fine, but we don't necessarily want to do that in this particular drawing. So this is not going to work for this project. We want to make sure that we adjust the size of these walls differently. So let me just do this wall and show you the difference between those. So I'm going to click on that wall, make it active. And now I'm going to come back to my properties and notice that the constraints say it's not connected to anything, but the height is set at 20 feet, which is why these defaults come in at 20 feet. It's set to 20 feet. I could change that to 10 feet. Or 100 feet, and it'll change the size of that wall. So let me jump that back to 10 feet. And that's exactly where we want it to lie right now. We want to have that set to 10 feet. And as we get into the second half of the semester, we'll learn how to adjust these even more perfectly to lie how we want it to. But for now, we're just going to set them at 10 feet. Let's do the same thing with this wall. Highlight that, make it active. Come over to properties and change that to 10 feet. Actually, we could change that to 10 feet, or there's another way that you can do it. Remember, there's always many different ways that you can do things in Revit. At this point, I can take this top constraint, and if I wanted to just attach it to level 2, I can attach it to level 2. And now it's going to be at the same height as my other wall at 10 feet, but it's set at level 2 because my level 2 is also set to 10 feet. At this point, it's still the difference between the two is I can't go in now and change the height of this wall because notice how it's kind of faded out. So I can't change it. The only way I can adjust the height of this wall is to go back to top constraint and change it back to unconnected. And then I can change the height of the wall. This wall is set at unconnected, so I can just come back and change the height of this wall whenever I want to. So a few different ways that we can do things. I'm going to highlight this wall again. And even though it's set to 15 feet, I'm going to constrain it to level 2. So what do we do with this last wall that's kind of hanging out here? Well, let's highlight the wall, see what happens. When we highlight the wall, make it active, I can come back over here to my properties and it says top constraint unconnected. Okay, cool. Well, I'll just set that to level 2. And nothing happened. Let's click that again. Okay, well, what if I just set that to 10 feet? Nothing happened again. The reason is when we connected this wall to the roof, that's the first default. In order for me to change the height of this wall, I need to unconnect it from the roof. So how do we do that? Well, first let's put the roof back. We have to have the roof active in order to do that. And I'm showing you all this so you can kind of play with this stuff. And somebody is definitely going to make one of these two mistakes. And this way you'll know how to fix it. So in order to turn that, unconnect the wall from the roof, I need to have access to both that wall and the roof at the same time. So I need to see both. Let me delete this. So now I can have access to the wall and the roof. So with the wall, I'm going to click it, make it active, and I'm going to hit detach top to base. So hit detach top to base, click on the roof, and now that has unconnected. I'll go back and turn this roof off again. And then we go back there. If we take a look at that wall, it's now gone back to the parameters that were set, where the unconnected and set to 10 feet. The important thing for you to know for your project is when you bring in these walls, the interior walls should be set to 10 feet and your exterior walls should be attached to the roof. And you just use attached top to base for that. Well, with that all being said, we still have a problem with this weird roof on here. So what do we do with this roof? Do we delete it and redraw it? Well, we could do that. And sometimes, honestly, it's easier just to delete it and redraw it. But other times we want to hit, it's easier just for us to go back and manipulate the roof and adjust it to what we want it to look like. So we're going to take that option now. So we're going to take this, we're still in 3D, so we're going to pop this upside down. So I have access to the roof. So I'm going to hit this top. Now I'm going to click on the roof, make it active. Remember, anytime you do that, you can come up to this panel right here and we're going to see an edit option. So we're going to edit the footprint of the roof. You click on that, make it active. So at this point, we can go ahead and change some parameters. But let's go ahead and add an overhang to this. Now, according to our guide over here, we want to add a 3-foot overhang. So we'll click on one side, make it active. Got to move that out of the way. With that side active and I come up to my options bar, notice I now have an option to add an overhang. So I'm going to make that 3 foot. And notice how that jumps out when we create that to 3 feet. And we've got to do the rest of these. But when I click on all of them, it can let me do all of them at the same time. And now I've got a 3-foot overhang. You're always going to have this boundary kind of hanging over there. So that way, you know, it's a 3-foot overhang. If I wanted to do one side as just like a 2-foot overhang, I can do that as well. It'll change some of the geometry on the roof when if you want to play with that, we'll take a look at that. But I suggest to start just using everything as a 3-foot, as the same overhang and not kind of manipulate it until we get to the second half of the semester. So let's hit the green check mark and see what happens. Once again, you're going to get the same message, and we're going to put don't attach because we already attached them, so we don't have to reattach them. And just doing that, it's given us this nice 3-foot overhang on our house. So the next thing we want to look at is a 7/12 slope. Well, what does that mean? So in any kind of roofing or roofing or stairs or anything like that, for every 12 inches you go across horizontally and then 7 inches vertically, that's going to give you the slope. I will send you some information that kind of explains that a little bit more. So basically, if it's 7/12, the higher the pitch is going to be. If it's a 3/12 roof, the lower the pitch is going to be. Let's figure out how to manipulate that. So if we click on the roof and make it active, and we come back over to properties, notice that that's a predetermined slope that came in at 9/12. It always kind of defaults to 9/12, but we can change that. What if I change that to a 3/12 slope? What would that look like? So notice that is a much shallower roof, and it changes the entire look of the building. On this one, we want to actually do a 7/12 slope. Oops. So that's the slope that we're looking for this house. So it's really easy to change that. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so we've got our 7/12 slope. All right, so don't want that. We've got our 7/12 slope. We've got a 3-foot overhang. Wow, I forgot to do the roof is 9 inches. Let's go back and correct that. I click on the roof, make it active. If I come over here to my properties and I see my type selector set to a 12-inch roof, well, all I need to do now is just change that to a generic 9-inch. And that's solved.
Wait, I'm sorry. Can you show me that again real quick?
Yep. So we need to, let me get back up. So according to our directions, we need to create a 9-inch roof. But if we come over here and select the roof type, the roof itself, and we go to the type selector, this is actually a 12-inch roof it defaulted to. So I want to change this from 12-inch roof to a 9-inch roof. So I just go to the type selector and switch that out for the generic 9-inch.
Okay, thank you.
And that'll adjust itself. All right, we're getting there, getting there. All right, let's go back. Check, check, check. 2 side gables. Okay, how do we fix that? Let's jump back to Revit. Go to a top-down view. So at this point, this is a hip roof. Hip roof means that there's just slant, a slope on all sides of the roof. So these are actually considered the hips. And what we want to do, if we want to make this a gable roof, which would just mean that it's a peaked roof on this side, we can change this peaks on this to go from a slanted to like a peaked roof. So what does that mean? Let's go ahead and click on the roof, make it active. Go back to edit footprints. And notice here's my slope symbol. I know I've got a slope on this side, but I want to make this a straight, the roof to be peaked. So I want to get rid of this hip on this side. So I'm going to click on this side of the roof and make it active. And when it says define slope, that means it's adding a slope to that, but I don't want a slope on that. So I want to take that away on this side. So notice now my slope side's gone. So I'm going to do the same thing to this side. I'm going to come back over here. Let's click on that, make it active, and click on uncheck define slope again. And now let's hit our green check mark. We don't want to attach that. And let's go to 3D and see what happened. So we've got something that looks like this. So now we've added, this is a gable roof now. This is a gable on the side of the house. We changed the side slopes from a hip roof to a gable roof. So we're getting more in line with what we actually need to do. And then let's jump back to our instructions. So we've got all this stuff done. Now all we need to do is add fascia and gutters. So fascia we'll do first, and then we'll add the gutters. So fascia is that piece of material, wood, sometimes you'll see it as aluminum coating or a vinyl coating that goes along this part of the roof, the exterior roof, where we covered the joists and the rafters are where the roof is going to be coming out. So it's going to run right along the exterior side of this roof. Let me pause for a second, please. course, I didn't pause the recording. Sorry, y'all. The problem with multitasking. All right. So we need to add the fascia to the sides of the roof. So in order to do that, we're going to go to Architecture tab, Build Panel, back to our Roof tool. We're going to do the drop down at this point. We're going to pick our fascia tool. So if we zoom in here, the important thing is to,
I think your screen is frozen. I'm not seeing any of that movement there.
thank you. How about now?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Cool. Let me start that over again. All right. So we'll go to Architecture panel, Build tool, Roof, Build panel, Roof tool again. So we'll do the drop down here and we're going to select our fascia tool. The important thing is to make sure that you pick the correct edge of the roof for this to be attached to. See, it'll highlight it blue where it's going to attach. So if I highlight it here, this is correct. So I'm going to pick that top exterior line all the way around the roof, and notice how it's just putting in that piece of board right around the outside. And it just kind of gives it a nice finished touch. And I've got all those in place. So now I've got my fascia in place. So we can do that. Now, one of the problems with the fascia that people have is when you come in here, let me just go ahead and do that again. No, don't want that. Sometimes people pick the wrong location line to start it. So if I pick the location line that's down here, obviously that's wrong. I've got a piece of fascia that's hanging down, not where it's supposed to be. It's got to go on the side of the roof where we would cover those rafters. So let me go ahead and delete that. So just make sure that you pick the right point to attach it to the roof. Next thing we want to do is attach gutters. So we'll do the same thing. We'll go to our roof tool, drop down and select our gutter tool. And the same thing with the gutters as with the fascia. You want to make sure that you select the right area to attach it to. Sometimes people attach it here, which is definitely not correct, because when you think about it, the whole purpose of the gutters is to collect that water and keep it away, run it away from the house. But here you'll have water that's running down the house, down the fascia, down all this. The roof details get obviously very detailed in order to create those. So we want to make sure that we put these in the correct place. So this is not where it's supposed to go. Let's delete that. Sometimes people pick the wrong one and they'll pick the inside one and be like, okay, where did my gutter go? And then I'm like, I got to do that again and put a gutter there. And then when you come back and take a look at that, now I've got a gutter on the inside of my roof and on the outside of my roof. So it's real important to be sure that you're picking the right area when you connect the fascia and gutter. So let me click on this. And then when I delete it, it's going to delete both of them at the same time because I drew them both at the same time. So you can't can't delete just one section of gutter. There is a way that we can do that, but just if you connect them all, do it all at the same time, you're going to delete them all at the same time. So let's go ahead and just drop our gutters on the side of the roof. We do not need gutters on the gable portion of the house because obviously rain will not run down directionally on that way. It's just going to be a gutter on this side of the house and on this slope of the house as well. Go back to roof. No, don't want that. Stop that. And we're going to drop this gutter here and spin the building around and drop the other gutter here. So we've got something that looks like this, which is nice. What's the downfall about having the gutters on a gabled house is Revit doesn't have like an easy default to put a cap on here. You actually have to create that. We don't necessarily go into that right now. It's not like super something that's it's not one of the big things that you need to know right now, but just know that there is a way that you can cap this off. And if we have time, I'll show you how to do that. But for now, you'll have something that kind of looks like this. When you do have a hip roof house, all the gutters kind of seam together, and it is nice. It does look a little bit better, but there is a way that we can cap this off, but we just have to draw it separately. Not the most important thing for us to go over right now in class.
Do they have an easy add for like a downspout from that gutter, or does it matter?
They don't have a downspout for this. That would be something else that we would have to draw.
All right, cool.
Yeah. All right, so that was a lot of stuff on roofs, on how to make a roof and how to manipulate it and stuff like that. Let's do that one more time just to create the roof part in a different order for you. See if we can make that a little bit easier. I'm just going to head and delete this. Don't want to save my project right now. So I'm just going to delete the entire roof so we look something back at like this. So let me jump back to my level 1. Back to the original view that we were going to draw, and let's draw the roof over again. Architecture tab, build panel roof tool. Oh, I should have looked at this the first time. And yes, I do want to move this to level 2. So I clicked that right the first time. At this point, I know I'm going to create a 3-foot overhang, so I can go to my options bar and change that to 3 foot. Oops, not 3 foot, thank you. Now when I pick my walls, notice that location line is going to jump out 3 feet to where I want it to be. In my instructions, I'm actually supposed to create the gable. But I have gables on all of these already, so I can't go back and select it because it's already active. I'll have to go back and fix that as well. So with just this information that I have here, let's hit the green check mark and see what happens. Remember, we want to hit don't attach here. Let's jump to 3D. Already we're looking better. At least the roof is in the same place that we want it to be. A couple of things that we can do here. I'm going to select that roof, make it active. Go to my properties. I'm going to change this to a 712 slope. And adjusted the roof. I'm going to go ahead and take these 3 exterior walls. 4 exterior walls. Hold my control button and select the other 3. Do attach top to base and connect those to the roof. The reason why the interior walls did not move when the other ones did is because, remember, we have those attached differently. We actually have those interior walls set to 10 foot now, so they wouldn't have gone back to 20 feet. These exterior walls are still set to 20 feet, but they are connected to the roof. So there's different ways things can change and manipulate and things like that. So that's why the exterior walls moved, but the interior walls did not. So there's still something I need to fix on here, and that's the gables. Once again, top view, select the roof, edit footprint, select that side of the roof, and I want to undefine slope. I'm going to take the slope away here as well. And when I hit my green check mark, don't attach, go to 3D, and now we're looking where we need to be, which is pretty nice. So you'll see there's a few different ways that you can play with it, and it's just a matter of just getting in there and playing with it and learning it and learning how to manipulate it. But you don't necessarily have to do everything in one order. It's just a matter of knowing how to manipulate those tools when you need to. Any questions about roofs? At this point, I should go back and just add fascia and gutters again, but that's easy. Any questions about roof stuff before we move on to sites? Okay, if anything comes up, you can always text me and then we can jump on a call. Let's move on to sites where there's a lot of steps involved in that too, and that'll be the last new thing that we cover today. So for sites, we want to jump back into our project browser. We want to jump to our floor plan site plan. So we're in our site plan level. And let's jump back to our instructions for today. So there's a few different tools that we're going to play with. The top ones are going to be how to create a property line. And this is going to be so you can create the site to the dimensions that you want it to be. So we're going to learn how to create a property line. Once we have that property line in place, we're going to use the toposurface tool to actually create the site. And then in order to manipulate the site so it lies correctly, we're going to use the split surface tool. So let's jump into property line. So while I'm in my site level, I want to jump to massing and site tab. And you'll notice in the modify site panel, we have a property line tool. So let's click on that. And there's two ways we can do it. We can do it by entering the distance, or we can create by sketching. We're going to do create by sketching. So as you see, when I drop in here, I can get the dimensions that I want. Just like we did before, if we want to adjust this to a certain length, it's supposed to be 80, we can use our temporary dimensions. And adjust that where we want it to go. So now I have a 50 by 80 foot lot. At this point, I'm going to hit my green check mark. This dotted boundary shows me that this is my property line. Next thing I want to do is for this property line, so if I go to 3D, you'll see, take a quick look there. Well, I don't see anything here. That's because the property line is just for you to create the size of the lot and then to add that into your site. It's not going to show anything on here. We actually have to add the topo surface to it now. So let's jump back to site. Massing and site tab, model site panel, topo surface tool. Let me turn the color back on here so you can see that come in. And now we're going to click in our different points. And on the third one, we'll get something that starts to look like a site. And we've got all of our 4 points checked, and we'll hit our green check mark and jump to 3D. And we've got something that looks like this. So we've got our site coming into place, which is really nice. Well, we don't necessarily want it to be dirt. So we want to make a grass material and create this as grass. So if we click on this, the site, and make it active, when we jump back to properties, you'll notice in the properties it has material, and you can select by category. So if we just jump into by category, and we just selected one of the ones that are in here. Well, now I have carpet for my site. I can click that again, go back into material, and pick whatever I want. Remember, this is the stuff that's already preloaded in Revit. There's no grass. You don't want to use this because it makes it look like a weird thing. It looks really strange. Notice how it's kind of see-through. So don't take a shortcut and try and do it like that. Actually create grass as your material. So we're going to click on that, make it active, jump back into materials. And this is a refresher on how to create materials. We're going to come back down to create new material. And I'm going to rename that. I'm just going to call it grass. I'm gonna go down to my asset browser. And you can search for grass up here, or you can just scroll. Like I said before, I think it's easier just to scroll rather than go through this search engine. I don't think it's very helpful, but feel free to try it. And notice we have a bunch of different grass options. You know, you could even do like a crushed gravel for your site if you want to do that, or anything. But let's go ahead and just choose this this grass. We do have St. Augustine, which makes sense for down here. So let's do that. Then we go back and I'll go to graphics, use render appearance. We want it to be that green color. The difference is between this, if I don't click that, this is what will happen. So we've got a realistic view, and then in consistent color. Jump back to grass. I should have put NCM behind my grass on there, and use render appearance. So we're kind of getting there. So it looks like we should be done now, right? Well, let's take a look at something else. Let's turn the building over. And I'm going to hide my slab at this point. And I've got something weird that looks like this. So what that basically means is that my slab and my finished floors are on the same level. And my site is inside my house. So I don't want to actually grass inside my house. So we need to use our split surface tool to eliminate that. So I just usually keep it in this position where it's upside down. And I'm going to click on splits, click on the site, make it active. Whoop, I went too fast on that. Click on split surface. Click on the surface that you want to split. It's going to show something like this. We're going to draw the shape of the geometry we want to remove from the inside of the house. At this point, let's use this rectangular tool here, since it's a simple geometry that we're going to be drawing. And I'm just going to go from point to point, picked up all those exterior points on there. And now I'm going to hit my green check mark. And that interior part of the site is still blue, it's still active. At this point, I can hit delete, and it will eliminate that site from the inside of the house. At this point, I can also put my slab back, and we'll be good. We'll be done. But a lot of times, there's just a few steps that people forget, and it gets confusing. So let's undo that and redo it. I'm just going to hit my X here. Yes, I want to quit that for now. Okay, so we're going to back to the same point that we were at before. So we want to make sure that we do it from a bottom down, the bottom view. And the first step is to click on the split surface tool. Click on the surface that you want to split. And then we'll use the rectangle again in order to create that. And then sometimes people will do that and then hit delete. And then when we come back over here for...
I'm sorry, real quick. When you did that, had you already deleted your slab?
I didn't delete the slab. I hid the slab. Yes, it already hid the slab. Remember, we used to hide the slide with our temporary hide isolate. So
Cool.
if we deleted it, we'd have to go back and redraw it. So that's why we want to hide it. But when I did that, when I redrew my split surface, I made it too big, and now I have this gap in my lawn. So you know, we don't want to have that either. So we'll want to go back, turn it upside down. Same thing that we've done with the other stuff when we've edited. Click on it, make it active. Go to edit surface, and notice that we have points here that we can change the direction or the shape of that opening. And we're just pulling those back and kind of closing that. Well, this one doesn't look too good. That will still kind of come over there. And now just by doing that, I've closed that gap around the side of the house. So I've done that with different points. And as we get through more advanced stuff, we'll learn how to manipulate those points even more. So if you make it too big, you can do that as well. And then sometimes when people are drawing, they forget to delete the site itself. I'm not doing this the right way, so don't follow this. I'm just throwing another site in. I just want to show you how to, if something happens. Okay, so let's go back to split surface. Select the surface that you want to split. We'll create that geometry and we'll check. And then a lot of times people will forget. This is probably the biggest error that people have, is they forget to delete that material that's inside the house. So I'll go back and I'll look at this and I'll be like, oops, forgot to check it. And then I'll come back over here and be like, okay, they did split the surface correctly. Because here I have one piece of material on the exterior and I have the other piece of material on the interior. So what I need to do at this point, and this gets a little annoying because you just have to get it at the right angle in order to select it. It's like when I want to do it, there we go. Is that good? Now that's my outside. So one of the frustrating things about Revit is sometimes it just won't let you select what you want to select. Okay, and let me do it there. I know that's the correct part because it says topo surface. And then if I come over to my properties, it tells me it's the topo surface. So now that I've actually got a chance to catch that, now all I need to do is delete it. Let's go ahead and turn my slab back on. And now we are set with the new additional information that we created for our midterm project. Well, I'm not fully finished because I still need to add my windows and stuff, but you'll get the gist. So that's it for today's lecture. Any questions about anything we reviewed today?
I'm still not getting the split surface thing, but I can go back and watch and try.
It is one of the more frustrating things. That's not a problem. Let me delete this. I'll show it one more time because if you're having a question about it, somebody else is definitely going to be, so it's not a problem. Let me jump back to the project browser and I'm going to start over with my site. I'll go back to site. Now, in order to add that in correctly, remember we need to do the property line, have that set to the correct dimensions that we want it to be. Here's when I'm going to go back with my topo surface tool. And I'm just going to add those 4 points in and hit my green check mark. Okay, so we draw it in site plan level 1, but in order to really manipulate it and do the things that we need to do, it's always best to jump to 3D. Because that way we can turn things over, we can hide stuff. It's just easier to do it in 3D where we want to manipulate stuff and you just have access to different things in order to do that. So once I draw the site, a couple of different steps I can take. I'm going to change the material first. Click on the material, click on the site, make it active. Go to properties. This is where we're going to go into our material. That grass I created is still there. So easy fix there and just make that grass. Let's turn the building over. Just because it's easier to access this from the top, it's just easier to do it rather than the other way. You can do it from the top or the bottom. I just think it's easier from the bottom. At this point, I want to hide my slab just because even if I did do a split surface and left the slab in place, I wouldn't be able to see that split surface. I'd still need to hide this in order to delete it. So it's easier just to hide this as we continue. By hiding the slab, I definitely know that this is incorrect, that I need to remove this site from the inside of the building. So at this point, what I'll do is go up to my split surface tool, click on split surface, click on the site that you want to split. At this point, I'll draw the geometry that I want to create, that I want to remove from the inside of the house. I just use the rectangle tool because it's easy for the geometry I have here.
Okay, so that's the grid I'm not seeing when I click on. So if I click on split surface and then click on the grass, essentially, yeah, I don't get the geometry creation element.
Okay, so we'll go to split surface and we'll click on the site that we want to split. So before you draw anything, you should have something that looks like this.
That I'm not getting. That's the problem.
Okay, that's odd.
So the thing is, when I look at the bottom of my property, all I see is my floor colors. I see the carpet, the 2 wood rooms, the tile. I don't see any of that green. There's no grass getting into that.
That's because I never put a floor.
Oh, you don't have, that's right. You don't have a floor in that room. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not getting that design tab essentially.
So you should, the only difference between, from what it sounds like right now, is I just don't have a flooring in this room right now. So what'll happen is when I go to split surface,
Right.
and then I make this active, do you have a screen that looks like this?
That's what I'm not getting that. Oh, there we go. Got it. Cool.
Oh.
You have to click. I got it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And at this point, that's when you should be able to, you can use the line tool. I just having you use another tool, and we're just going to use the rectangle tool. And at that point, we go from this endpoint to this endpoint. You should have that now. And then we hit the green check mark. And that's when people tend to forget to do the rest of it. So this is when we need to go back and find that correct edge to select that. Well, obviously, if I delete this one, it's the exterior part. Well, that's wrong. We don't want to delete that part. Undo. We want to get this part in the middle, and that's the frustrating part sometimes. And there, I got it there, and I know that because it says topo surface, and in my properties, it tells me that's the grass material. And all I need to do at this point is hit delete. And now that's gone. Now that's correct.
Okay.
And the reason I know that is because I don't have a piece of material here to show me that. But then also you should have the same thing where it kind of squishes up and it's on the same level and it's got that weird pattern to it. You should not have that anymore when you deleted that material from the inside of the house. So at this point,
simply select that material and it should be the topo surface and then hit the delete button.
Correct. That's it.
Okay.
And then we'll go ahead and unhide our slab, and our slab is in place, and then we can save it, our work at this point, and we are good. Any other questions, y'all? All right, I'll get this video posted as soon as possible today. And then if anybody has any questions, remember you can just send me a text and I'll get back with you. What I'd like to have for just progress so far is by Sunday night, turn in the progress that you have. And you're not going to get a grade on that, but it is just for me to see how you're doing and to check your progress. So that way you don't get too far ahead. Don't get too into this project and I find something wrong then. It's just kind of a way to help y'all, especially in this distance learning situation, just a way to kind of help y'all keep on track and catch any mistakes or errors before we get too far along the process. So there won't be a grade on it. You'll just get it submitted, whether or not you submitted it or not, but just submit your progress so I can see how you're doing. So unless there's any questions, we'll go ahead and drop and I will just see you on Monday. All right, cool. Thanks, everybody.
See you next time.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all. Bye-bye.